In 1941, the skies over Britain hid a terrifying secret. For the Royal Air Force, the greatest danger wasn't always the enemy. Sometimes it was their own planes. Imagine you're a Spitfire pilot, locked in a dogfight, the world a blur of G-force and adrenaline. You've got a German Messerschmitt in your sights. You push the stick forward, diving for the kill, and your engine just dies. Complete, heart-stopping silence. For 2 agonizing seconds, you are a sitting duck, a helpless glider hanging in the air as enemy cannons tear your wings to shreds. This wasn't a freak accident. It was a deadly pattern. German pilots had discovered this fatal flaw and were ruthlessly exploiting it, luring British fighters into dives they knew would be suicidal. The RAF was losing its best pilots at an unsustainable rate. The official solution? A total engine redesign years away. Years Britain didn't have. They needed a miracle. The problem was simple physics. When a Spitfire or Hurricane went into a dive, it experienced negative G-force. Inside the legendary Rolls-Royce Merlin engine, this was a catastrophe. The fuel in the carburetor's float chamber would slosh upwards, away from the intake. The engine, starved of fuel, would quit. Meanwhile, the German Messerschmitt Bf-109 was immune. Its advanced direct fuel injection system meant its engine never missed a beat, no matter the maneuver. It was a tactical masterstroke. German aces would bait a British pilot, dive hard, and wait for the inevitable engine cutout. The hunter instantly became the hunted. The desperate search for a solution led to the Royal Aircraft Establishment, where Britain's sharpest minds were stumped. But the answer wouldn't come from a committee of men in suits. It would come from a woman who rode to work on a powerful motorcycle, her hands often stained with oil and grease. Her name was Beatrice Shilling. Most people called her Tilly. In an establishment dominated by men, Tilly was an anomaly. Many colleagues mistook her for a secretary. They couldn't have been more wrong. Shilling was a brilliant, hands-on mechanical genius. Her real education wasn't from a university, but from the deafening roar of the racetrack. She was a daredevil racer, pushing her Norton motorcycle to over 100 miles per hour at the notoriously dangerous Brooklands track. Racing taught her something the engineers in the lab couldn't grasp. She didn't just understand engines, she felt them. She knew the shudder of a machine under extreme G-force, the subtle vibration that signals failure. When she heard about the Merlin's problem, she recognized the symptoms immediately. While Rolls-Royce's top engineers worked on a perfect, long-term fix that was years away, Tilly saw the battlefield reality. Pilots were dying now. She needed a solution that was fast, practical, and could be implemented immediately. Her idea was one of breathtaking simplicity. A small, precisely machined brass disc, basically a metal washer with a tiny hole drilled through the center. Inserted into the fuel line, it would restrict the sudden, fatal surge of fuel during a dive, but still allow enough to flow for the engine to roar at full throttle. But getting this unauthorized part approved through the slow, grinding gears of the Air Ministry would take months, a lethal delay. So, Tilly decided to risk everything. She committed a courageous act of professional mutiny, bypassing the entire chain of command. On the morning of March 14, 1941, she arrived at RAF Kenley, her satchel holding a few of her forbidden brass restrictors. She found a sympathetic soul in Sergeant William Cooper, a ground crew chief who had seen too many friends die. As Squadron Leader Davies climbed into his Hurricane for a patrol, completely unaware he was about to be a test pilot, Cooper got to work. In 60 seconds, he sliced the fuel line, slid the small brass washer into place, and welded it shut. The modification was completely invisible. In that moment, Tilly had gambled her entire career. If Davies's engine seized, the inquiry would find a dead pilot, a wrecked plane, and one inexplicable piece of brass that would lead directly to her court-martial. As the Hurricane vanished into the sky, an agonizing silence fell. For an hour, Shilling waited, the weight of her decision crushing her. The radio silence could mean anything. a routine patrol, or a disaster so sudden there wasn't even time to cry for help. Then a crackle from the radio. 3 hurricanes inbound. She raised her binoculars, her hands shaking, and saw 3 dark shapes resolve against the clouds. No one was lost. But the real test was yet to come. She watched Davies climb from his cockpit, not with the haunted look of a survivor, but with a strange, exhilarating smile. Sergeant Cooper asked him how the engine ran. Davies' response was a torrent of praise. "Best the Merlin's ever run," he declared. He described a flawless dive on 2 Messerschmitts where, for the first time, the engine roared with uninterrupted power, forcing the enemy to flee. When Shilling nervously explained the secret modification, Davies wasn't angry. After a moment of stunned silence, he gave an immediate, authority-defying command. "Get that in every hurricane on this station, before the end of the day." That command ignited a firestorm. The news tore through Fighter Command. Pilots who had lost friends to the engine flaw besieged their squadron leaders, demanding this miracle fix. The calls flooded into the research establishment, all asking for the woman engineer and her simple brass washer. The pressure from the front lines was so overwhelming that the Air Ministry had no choice but to capitulate, sanctioning the very modification that, just a week earlier, would have ended a career. Rolls-Royce began churning out thousands of the discs. Tilly Shilling, the rogue engineer, now led a rapid deployment team, traveling from one airbase to another, personally supervising every installation. It was on these freezing airfields that the pilots, with their unique brand of gallows humor, gave the device its legendary and slightly inappropriate nickname, Miss Shilling's Orifice, a name she reportedly accepted with grace, knowing that if a bit of crude slang helped her men trust the very thing that would keep them alive, she would wear the title with pride. The nickname stuck, becoming a powerful psychological talisman. Pilots would refuse to fly without it. They knew this small piece of brass was the promise that they could finally follow their enemy into a vertical dive without hesitation, confident their engine would not betray them. The results were revolutionary. Before Tilly's fix, 38% of diving attacks ended in engine failure. Afterwards, that number plunged to less than 0.5%. The kill-to-loss ratio for British fighters more than doubled almost overnight. German pilots were baffled, reporting Spitfires that simply refused to stall. Beatrice Shilling's work continued long after, and she was eventually appointed an officer of the Order of the British Empire by the King. Yet, despite proving her genius, she would never be allowed to reach the highest levels of her profession. Those were reserved for men. Her legacy isn't a job title. It's forged in that small piece of brass, a timeless testament to the brilliant maverick who broke the rules to save the pilots a flawed system was prepared to lose. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story of hidden history and unsung heroes, be sure to like this video and subscribe for more. We'll see you in the next one.